All right, people, we are live on YouTube. I have been plowing through today. If you want to know what a professional YouTuber lifestyle or whatever it is that I am is all about, it's a day like today where, as you guys know, I bounce around the world and I talk to people in Australia and Japan and Mexico and Chile and plenty in the United States and UK and everywhere else. I'm sorry for whatever countries I'm forgetting. But we literally baked in no breaks today. I scarfed down some poke while I was on a call with someone. Thank you, Brian, for that. And we've just been plowing through because I traveled all last week. I'm going to tell you guys a couple insider things right now or over the course of the next hour that we've just been so freaking busy that I needed every moment that I could get to today. So we really went for it. Anyway, this is Patreon exclusive YouTube stream. So we did open this up to all of our patrons. There's a couple things that I want to tell you guys about. I'm really excited about a few things. I also think that, as many of you have pointed out today, there's just sort of, there seems to be a renewed momentum sort of behind what we're doing here with the show, and some sort of press that I'm getting and things that are going around. So I'm feeling good about all that stuff. We are going to recalibrate some of the Patreon rewards because I do want more of you guys in on this level of patronage, because I think the more people that we have doing this, the more questions we get, the more interaction there is. And I really do, I think one of the key things that's happening in the world right now, as Eric Weinstein always says, is we've had a breakdown of communal sense making. And I know so many of you, I love seeing it, and I hear it from you guys all day, is how many of you are connecting with each other through Patreon, and you guys are communicating. I've met some of you. I just met Blake, who's a patron. I met him at UCF in Florida a couple days ago, and I was there with Yaron Brook, which we put that video up today, by the way. Normally we like to live stream those events, but they didn't have the capabilities in the room we were in. So we posted that. If you haven't seen it yet, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Yaron and I, we agree on a lot of things. That there's some things where we have some slight disagreement, where I think he's a little more less government than even I am. But we kind of poke and prod at each other the right way. We talked about drugs and guns and role of government and free speech and all that good stuff. I really enjoyed it. We did the Q&A, and you can see this in the video. We announced the Q&A. There were 200 some odd kids there. It was totally sold out. And half the room got up for the Q&A, so we could only get to about 10 people. But the questions were great. It was just a great event. Anyway, let's see. What are we going to talk about here? I'll just start with a quick. I'm going to answer your questions, by the way. So questions will start coming in. So if you send me a question, Amira, who is on location at her apartment in another part of LA, sends those questions to my iPad through the internet. It's truly amazing. Okay, here we go. Hey, Dave, thanks for your monthly Patreon rewards. If there's one reward you could add in the future, what do you think it might be, and what level would it be rewarded at? Well, as I just said, we do want to fiddle with some of the rewards because I want to keep things feeling new, and I don't want things to get stale. I think maybe we could start doing some more live streaming stuff on the road. So, for example, one of the things that I want to tell you about, I guess this is a good time for it, is that some of you know that I've done 2 live events with Jordan Peterson. I opened for him at the Orpheum in LA about a month ago, which was just impromptu. I asked him if I could do it that day. I said, you're performing tonight. You want me to come out there and warm up the crowd? And he said yes, and he's just great and gracious, and it was just wonderful. And then I opened for him at the Beacon Theater in New York City this past Sunday, so a week ago, 8 days ago now. And it was just wonderful. And it was a true dream of mine to perform at the Beacon Theater. The Beacon Theater is on the Upper West Side of New York, about 74th and Broadway. I lived on the Upper West Side for many years. And for that 10 years where I was doing stand-up, I used to walk by that theater all the time and think, I will perform here one day. And it's where many HBO specials, George Carlin did some HBO specials there. Ellen DeGeneres, I think, did her last 2 there. Seinfeld's there all the time. And it's big, they get huge bands there, the Allman Brothers and all this stuff. Anyway, it was so great. It was so cool and great to be there. 3,000 people. The line, if you don't believe that there is momentum behind the things that we're talking about on this show, the line to see Peterson, of course it was sold out, wrapped around 4 New York City blocks. So all the way across Broadway, down, I guess that's 73rd, then down Amsterdam, or up Amsterdam as it were, and then back up 74th. I mean, it was just spectacular. When they announced my name, so the PA guy comes on, and it was still a surprise that I was going to be there. And the PA guy, they say, welcome to the show, no flash photography, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, and now the host of the Rubin Report. And the second he did that, before you could even say it, the crowd went bananas. I've never experienced anything like it before. It was just amazing. And then I warmed up the crowd for about 15 minutes or so, and it was just great. If you haven't seen the picture, I think I posted it on the Patreon feed, but if not, you could see it either on my Twitter or Instagram.com/Rubin Report. It was just a great night. So the announcement that I'm going to tell you guys right now, that you may have heard already, is that I am going on tour with Jordan. So I've committed already to 11 of the first 12 stops, including the UK, next month. And then there's another 20 or so stops that we're going to figure out this week how many of them I can do. I've been invited to do all of them, but I do have a show that I have to do here, and I have plenty of other college gigs and other things going on. And but I'm going to try to do as many. So for any of you guys that are in any of the cities that these tour stops will be in, hopefully I'll get to meet you. You know, after the thing in New York, I jumped down off the stage and I was meeting people, and you know, big line of selfies. It was just, there's so much cool stuff happening, and I'm just thrilled and honored that you know, you guys want to be part of this and help me do whatever it is that I'm doing out here. So also, while I'm in the UK, by the way, I got an email last week. This is probably the biggest honor that I've ever gotten. I've been asked to speak at Oxford Union, which really, it's like one of the biggest honors you can get as a public person. I mean, they get presidents and prime ministers and just incredibly influential people. So I'll be with Jordan Peterson. I'm actually not even sure of the day off the top of my head, but I'm going to the UK a day before so that I can do that. Then I'll be with Peterson. Then I have to fly out the next day. So I'm doing the UK in 2 days, then back here because we've got some stuff cooking in San Francisco, which I'll tell you about in a little bit, and some other things. So yeah, it's very cool. So I think in answer to your question, maybe some more live streaming stuff. I would love if Patreon could get a live app, if they could have a live functionality in their app, which I'm assuming they're working on. I think that would be a great way to do some more rewards with you guys. I think anything that connects us a little bit more or helps you guys connect, I think is the important thing, because I think what's cool that we're building here is that sense of community. You know what I mean? It's like with all the crap that's going on right now on Facebook with privacy and the Twitter trolls that have, you know, just ransacked Twitter, and the YouTube situation where even Phil DeFranco tweeted today something about his videos aren't getting out to his subscribers and his feeds. I've been complaining about that. Now they've been monetizing us suddenly, but now it doesn't seem like our videos are getting to our feeds. It's like with all the frustration with all that, if we can provide a little place, possibly here on Patreon or maybe somewhere else, where you guys can connect with each other and it avoids some of the endless noise and hate and all that stuff. I love that idea. So we're definitely going to push on that. Okay, I see a whole bunch of questions coming through. Oh, and by the way, as a couple of you were pointing out, Patreon does have a live stream feature, but they do it through YouTube. So we'd have to figure out how, maybe there's a way to do that mobile. We'll look into that a little bit more. The Peterson date in the UK, by the way, is May 13th. And then I'll be at Oxford Union. I think it's on May 14th. So if you're in the UK for either one of those, I don't know how you get tickets to the Oxford Union, but I'd love to see some of you guys. That would be great. Okay. Let's see. Katie, oh man, live video during HQ Trivia. It's my very own Sophie's Choice. If you're here, you've made the right Sophie's Choice. So there you go. Oh, how is Legend of Zelda on Switch? Are you enjoying it? I am. I'm so glad you asked that question. So, so a fan got me the Nintendo Switch, and you know, so Colin, you guys may remember this. Colin Moriarty had gotten me PlayStation 4 about a year ago, and I was playing a little bit, but I was just finding all the games were too complex. I don't have the time to invest in all the crazy RPGs and all that stuff. And I was often becoming more frustrated than when I started, which is not what you want out of video games, right? So, so a fan sent me the Nintendo Switch, which is awesome. I mean, someone just sent me the Switch in the mail. Pretty great, right? And David and I played Mario Kart and that. But then he also sent me Zelda. It's called, is it not Ocarina of Time? It's called, what the hell is it called? It's called Breath of the Wild. And I've been playing about 10, 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes every day, or after, you know, every other day or something. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm on an adventure. It's complex, and you got to run around, and it's pleasant, and it sounds good, and you're not blowing everything up. And I'm totally enjoying it. I think I'm going to take it on the road for some of these trips, because I'm on these planes and I end up watching the same freaking movies that I've seen 1,000 times before. Although I am trying to catch up on some of the books that I need to read for some of my guests too. But I am thoroughly enjoying it, and thank you for asking. Okay, let's see. Any plans to invite someone from Claremont onto the show? They've been called Trump's brain trust. I'm not sure what that is, Claremont. I spoke at Claremont McKenna University. Heather McDonald also spoke there. It's become sort of it was sort of had a bad connotation related to free speech. Now it has a good connotation for free speech, but I think perhaps that's not what you're talking about. My man, Dog Jones, good to see you, brother. Look for me during the Q&A when you're in Denver. I will look for you, my friend. And actually, I've got a couple friends in Denver, so maybe I can pull off a dinner situation when I'm in Denver, which that's the type of thing where being a patron has its rewards. I can't publicly say where I am for obvious idiotic reasons, but I definitely will try to see you, my friend. Let's see. Hey, Dave, thanks for everything so far. I remembered a few months ago you would get Thomas Sowell on. Any update on that? I am glad you asked, because as of this morning, finally, we have been trying. People, everything that I have said to you is true. For literally 2 years, we've been trying to make this happen. We've gone back and forth. He's 86 years old. He doesn't do a tremendous amount of press, et cetera, et cetera. They had sent us the book a couple months ago. It was going to happen. It didn't happen. Coordination. We just booked our flights. We just rented the studio. And we will be interviewing Thomas Sowell next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, in San Francisco. I'm totally psyched. I absolutely cannot wait to do this. It's a true dream come true. I think for you guys, so many of you had your sort of awakening to classical liberalism, to limited government, to libertarianism, whatever. Let's not get into all the details. Through Thomas and his incredible writing. He is the antidote to identity politics. He's one of the great thinkers that we still have in this country. And we're doing a video interview with him. He's done a couple things. He did Ben Shapiro on the phone a couple days ago. But he's doing a video interview, which he doesn't really do anymore. I'm incredibly excited about this. I promise I won't let you down. And by the way, I should make a point of saying that this is exactly the type of thing that we are on Patreon for. So we're going to San Francisco to tape this. So we're flying me and David and Amira and Alexis, who does our makeup, because I've got to look sharp, you know, for the good people. And so we're flying our whole team out there, or at least all of our full-timers out there. And we're renting a studio at Stanford, which costs a couple $1,000 and then there'll be some ancillary costs and all that. But you know, we'll never make that money back on YouTube, obviously. Even if the video got 1 million views and was monetized and blah, 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 you never make back thousands of bucks on one video. So you guys 100% are making this happen. So when we were looking at this and we looked at the couple $1,000 for the studio and whatever it was for the flights, I said to David before we did, I was like, whatever it costs, we're doing it. I mean, this is why we're on Patreon. So this is 100% because of you guys. So I thank you for that. And I think it's going to be great. And I'm super excited for it. I see a lot of good questions here. Okay. When were you last in London, UK? Do you have any favorite spots or anywhere you'd like to check out if you had a longer time? So I'm going to see if I can push the trip for even like a half day more, because I have not been to London or the UK since 1997, which is crazy. So I've had a couple other offers to speak there and a couple other offers to do some TV shows and stuff. So I definitely will get back there soon, hopefully within the year. This one, we just kind of got to get in and out quick. When I was there last time, the coolest thing that I did was I went to, I saw Fish, the band Fish, at Royal Albert Hall, which was pretty awesome. But I'd love to spend more time there, and I get a ton of email from the UK, and I'm psyched to be part of that and do that. Did you see Lindsay Shepard's "I'm No Longer a Leftist" YouTube video? It's very sad. So I only had a moment, and I did watch the first 30 seconds or so. I did share it on Twitter. You guys know the story of Lindsay Shepard. I'm sure if you don't, you should watch our interview with her, student up at Wilfrid Laurier up in Canada, who was a lefty, a progressive, the whole thing, her whole life. Started to see the truth, see some of this nonsense that the left has become, and now has just been castigated out and called all of the worst things, and they've tried to shut her down, and she's just seen the hysteria that has taken root at the college campuses. So she did a video this week saying why I can no longer call myself a leftist. I think that's the exact title, right? And you know, I have to say, if you watch the video that I did with her, the interview, it was very obvious to me that in a way I was sort of looking at myself from a couple years ago, that she was just waking up to what this stuff was, and that I could see sort of the way her path would go. And I've seen this with other guests, by the way, that have had similar awakenings. And I think now I tweeted it out and I said, well, you're a classical liberal if you need a label, not a leftist. It's sad because, look, I think it's probably, it depends which way you look at it, right? So on some level, it's sad because she thought of herself a certain way. She viewed life a certain way, and good guys and bad guys, and her side and her team a certain way. And it kind of sucks when you have to reevaluate that. On the other hand, that's pretty great when you have to reevaluate it, and the new allies and friends she'll have, and hopefully that she'll be able to inspire other people to be on the same adventure she was. I mean, that's pretty awesome, actually. So, so I think that's very, very cool. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Am I gonna just shift a little over there? Okay. Is Sam Harris ever going to come back on the show? Also, do try to come to Peterson's Indianapolis event. I already have my ticket. I would love to see you there. Sam knows that he has an open door anytime he wants to come on there. We were trying to arrange something with him and Ben, which I think maybe we'll still try to work out. Just schedules have been nuts. But yes, we'll have Sam back on for sure. And I think I am doing the Indy event. If it's one of the first 12, which you can check on his website. I know for a fact I'm doing 11. I'm doing 11 of the first 12. The only one I'm not doing is Detroit. No offense, Detroit. Although that sort of seems funny. Like, oh, one place you're not going is Detroit. No offense, Detroit. It's a gorgeous theater. I think it's called the Fillmore. I've been there. It's a gorgeous theater. I wish I could do it. I just can't because of things that we're taping here. But if it's one of the 11 of the first 12, I will be in Indianapolis. And if it's not, we'll announce probably within a week. I'll announce the rest of the ones that I can go on, and my hope is that I can go on as many of the 20 or so as possible. But I just know just because of schedules, it's not going to be every single one. Okay, let's see here. Let's get a Discord server for Patreons. Amira is looking into it. Believe me, guys, this is not lost on us. We have been working overtime here as things have ramped up, and we're trying to figure out ways that we can streamline everything we're doing. We know a lot of you guys want the Discord thing. We're thinking about it. I have not forgotten you, and I appreciate that those of you that keep pushing us. Let's see. Do you think Republicans are going to lose some seats into the 2018 election? Okay, I'm glad you asked this. And oh, by the way, I'm going to do a live stream this Wednesday because I want to talk about a couple of things that I'm giving you guys advanced knowledge of here, and I haven't done just like an open live stream just for everybody, not just Patreon for Patreon in a while. So I'm gonna do that on Wednesday. And I'm going to address this question, but I'll give you guys my initial thoughts, and I'd love to hear what you think on this. So, okay, conventional thinking right now is that all the momentum is behind the Democrats. There was the march against guns last week, that all the young people seem to be all about what the Democrats are doing, and that incumbents usually, the president, the sitting president, usually loses a lot of seats on the down ticket stuff. That happened every time with Obama. Every off year, the Democrats got crushed. That's what's led us to the Republican majority now. So conventional thinking is that the Democrats are going to win a lot of these. I'm going to take a slightly different approach, at least from what I see right now, which is that although it makes it, by every article that you read, it's the Democrats are going to crush, the Republicans are reeling, if you remove, and this is what I've said about Trump from the beginning, but if you remove the hysteria of the tweets and everything else, well, then mostly the economy is doing pretty well. Are we entering some war that I don't know about? I don't think so, actually. Are we potentially sitting down with North Korea? It sounds like it. Tax cuts. I think there's a lot of reasons to think that there's good things happening in America. I also think that we shouldn't discount the amount of people that see the march, for gun control, and see all of these people, including some mainstream people, like former justices in the New York Times who are writing about repealing the Second Amendment. And I think that actually does enthuse the Republican base. So I'm going to go against conventional thinking on this. And this might be a year where the Republicans actually do a little bit better. But remember, all they need to do is not get killed to maintain power. If they stay, they're in good shape. So we're still months away from it, and a lot of things can change in that time. But my guess is going against conventional thinking at the moment. Okay, Claremont. Sorry, Dave, a think tank called the Claremont Institute, near the college but not affiliated. They published the Claremont Review of Books. Very smart people. I'll check it out for sure. So it's near the institute, all right, or it's near the college, but we'll find out. Okay. Let's see. What books are you currently reading? Would you have a book club in the new Patreon rewards? So two of the things that I want to do in the new Patreon rewards when we figure it out, I want to do a book club for sure. And I love the idea of doing that through Patreon, because then it's like we could really talk about it. Like if I do a book club that's not Patreon exclusive, it will be very hard to manage. So I want to figure out a way we could potentially do that. And the other one that I really love, and it's a little bit of an easier lift just because I want to be respectful of everyone's time, is do a movie night. So we've already got a list of movies that I think would be great conversation starters. Some that I love, some that I don't love, but I think are interesting to watch. And then all of us just bounce back and forth on ideas. You know, we've got a thing here, which we haven't taken advantage of that much, where we can Skype 4 people at once. So maybe we do like a day. That could be an interesting reward, where it's like a couple hours of just me Skyping with all of you guys at once. And you know, they kind of put you in a queue and you let us know what you think about things. So I love doing those kind of things that are going to get all of this, just all this to feel more cohesive and more tight. Okay. The more conservatives you interview, which seems to me the majority of them, do you find yourself struggling more and more by describing yourself as classical liberal? I was a hardcore Bernie fan from Seattle, and after discovering the intellectual dark web, I found myself feeling much more conservative than I thought I was. I don't want to call myself conservative, and I'm scared Tammy Bruce was right on your panel at David Horowitz's Restoration Weekend in 2017. Okay, so first off, if you haven't seen that video, it's not on our channel, but if you Google my name, or Tammy Bruce Restoration Weekend 2017, we did a panel. It was me, Tammy Bruce, Candace Owens, and James Damore. And I think David called it the Second Thoughts panel, and I moderated it. And it was about people who have had a political awakening. And all of us basically from these 4 people started sort of as more lefties or progressives, and now whatever we are, whether it's classical liberals or libertarians, or in Tammy's case, conservative. Tammy's basic point, I think, which is what you're saying, is that once you wake up to this nonsense, eventually you'll see yourself as a conservative. Look, I would say this. First, you guys know my feelings that the labels are becoming increasingly meaningless. I can, with no reservations, and no with no reservations, I can still call myself a classical liberal and feel completely intellectually honest. As I've done on the show many times, a classical liberal believes in the individual. You believe in limited power of the state, but you don't believe that the state shouldn't exist. And this is sort of a difference of where this is that sort of fine place where you can have an interesting discussion about what's the difference between a classical liberal and a libertarian, because there are some libertarians that see a little more utility of the state. Ironically, I'm still shifting. The more I think about all these things, I keep shifting more into a libertarian place, which is that the state shouldn't provide that much other than an army and police and safety. And even though I'm a believer in public schools, and I went to only public schools, and I went to State University of New York at Binghamton, and my grade school and elementary school and high school were all public schools, I think there's the more choice, the better, whether that's private companies or charter schools or whatever else. And I would always kick power back to the states related to all that, instead of having giant bloated Department of Education and all that stuff. So I would say I don't have a problem calling myself a classical liberal still, because I do believe those are the beliefs that I hold. And, you know, I have to say, if I was to pat myself on the back for one thing that I've done in life, it's like 5 years ago, nobody was using the phrase classical liberal. I hear it all the time now. I hear it on TV sometimes. And sometimes I'm walking down the street and literally this has happened where someone has just yelled classical liberal at me. We high five and keep walking. I mean, so something cool is happening. I would say this, that if the conservative view of things, look, I'm pro-choice still, and watch my last interview with Ben Shapiro about, if you want to get some of my thoughts on that. I'm still against the death penalty. You know, I know some conservatives aren't for gay marriage. I'm gay married. I'm for legalizing weed. Most conservatives aren't. These are all things that I can also explain from a libertarian perspective. But I would say for you, don't get too hung up on the labels, number one. But waking up to what big government and Bernie and democratic socialist, which is just a temporary stop on the way to socialism, waking up to what that is one first part of the step. But if you, whatever it is that you are, if you happen to be pro-choice, can you be a pro-choice conservative? Again, this is about, we're getting caught up in words. But I would say that if you believe in the individual, and that's how we should be judging and viewing each other, and you believe in some level of limited government, then you're a classical liberal, and you're good to go. And you don't have to say I'm part of this party or part of that party. If you live in a state that has closed primaries, well, then you may want to register as a Democrat or a Republican, because you want to be able to influence the primaries. But beyond that, don't get too hung up on the words. Try to do what your conscience tells you to do. Man, we're getting a ton of great questions today. What's the best Mel Brooks movie? I mean, I would have to say Spaceballs is my favorite. You guys know my feelings about Star Wars. So Spaceballs is my favorite. It also was like, I think it came out around maybe 89 or so. Someone could fact check me on that. So I was about 12, 13 years old. So it's in like my formative comedy years. So I think that's the best. Blazing Saddles is comedy perfection. And it is, if you think we have anything politically incorrect these days, watch Blazing Saddles. They couldn't even get away with the fart scene these days because someone would tell you it was racist or something. But it's a brilliant flip of racism. You know, even in that movie, they would never do a movie. I mean, look how much crap Quentin Tarantino got in for the amount of times they said the N-word in Django Unchained. I don't know how many times they said it in Blazing Saddles. Not that the word in itself is that important, but they were actually using it to mock racism, to show you who the racists were. And it's a brilliant, brilliant movie. But I'd still put Spaceballs for me as number one. Okay, let's see. How does it work things like quality control and work food safety issues without government regulation? So I should bring on somebody to talk about this, because I think this is a legit argument where people go, wait a minute, we need the FDA to have regulations. Otherwise, companies can poison the wells, and they can put lead in your tomato paste, and they can put, you know, iron in your orange juice or whatever else it is. So how do you regulate that? Now, first off, I think that there's more self-regulation than we actually believe, because I think most of these companies, ultimately, because they're capitalist companies in free markets, they want to make money. And if you were doing things that got exposed that were harming your customers, either harming their health or whatever it is, that you would not do well as a company. Now, I know that's a little pie in the sky, right? That's like, but companies do bad things. You're right, they do. But the idea that we can pass regulations, and that what it is that it's our regulations that are stopping them, I just don't see a lot of evidence for that. I think companies always figure out ways around this. I think you create this sort of secondary, Peterson's talked about this a bit, this sort of middle management thing that the government loves, just people who do nothing. They create nothing but glut. They accomplish nothing, and then we have regulators and blah, 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 and people get paid off, and there's all sorts of ways around things. I would say what you really want is competition. Because the more, let's say we're talking about, trying to think what's a good example. Tuna is a good one, right? Because there's mercury in tuna, and it's also in aluminum cans, which have BPA, which I guess they say can cause cancer. Now, if you knew that there are 5 tuna brands, and you knew one, it was really, really cheap, but they don't tell you how they get their tuna, and you don't know if dolphins get caught in the netting, and and their cans, they don't tell you where they are. And then you knew all the way on the other side, and this isn't a made up thing that I'm doing. I mean, you can buy really cheap weirdo brand tuna, or you could go to Whole Foods and buy their sustainable, line caught, not net, blah blah blah. Yeah, you're going to pay a lot more for that. Now, not everyone has the luxury of that, and that's true. But I don't think we can regulate everything to the point of where everyone's going to be equal all the time. I would say that companies can self-regulate, because if they have competition, they'll want to do better. They will want more innovation to do better. And I get what the argument is against this. And I just don't think that certainly that the federal government is the right way to go about doing this. I have a good friend right now who's in the food service business, creating a product that's gaining a little traction right now, trying to get into some stores, Costco and Whole Foods, et cetera, et cetera. And what he constantly tells me is the amount of regulation has caused the way he has to work with the packer and the people that actually cut the product. I just don't even want to say what it is right now. But that all of these things, they don't add to the quality of the food, or even to the safety of the food in many ways. They just add to the cost. So I think there's other ways to get around it. I'd love to discuss this more. I'm not in the food service industry, and this isn't a complete place where I'm an expert, but I'd love to have more conversations about it, and I love the question, so thanks for asking. Let's see. There's a great parody video of a Slavoj Zizek and Jordan Peterson on your show. That would be a great debate to see, and I can't think of a better venue. Zizek keeps coming up, and I think we reached out to him about a year ago and never heard back, but let me follow up about that. I'm not totally sure. If one of the major cable networks offered you your own show, would you take it, or do you prefer the autonomy? I'm glad you asked. I've sort of addressed this every now and again, and I suspect because things are ramping up, and my agents are telling me they're getting all sorts of calls and all sorts of things, I'm glad I can address this. look, I love everything that we're doing right now. I've never felt better about what we're doing. I think we've never been more relevant. I think the things that I'm talking about, the things that I've been talking about, and had the if what the left was, years ago when we were calling out all these identity politics and hysteria, outrage, nonsense, if they would have listened, I think the country could be in a much better place right now. But we were on the forefront of that, and I still think we're on the forefront of a lot of these issues. But it's clear to me that the show, the things that we're talking about, these things keep bubbling up into the mainstream. So to be totally frank, I've gotten some offers from a bunch of different online networks. Without getting into all of them, you've heard of all of them. Some of them, at least one of them, was for, they're all usually for more money than we make here, but one of them was for significantly more money. I had no problem saying no, because I love the absolute control that we have. As you guys know, I'm in my house, right? This is my studio in my house. And we've built something that I'm so proud of. We've built the business. We have a good business behind us right now, because I've used the same principles that I talk about all the time with you guys in the business that I've built. We're a slim, trim operation. We don't spend beyond our means. I'm really proud of what we've been able to do here. We pay all of our employees health insurance and all that. We're looking into some other ways that we can hire, and that we can even expand some of the things that we're doing for our employees, and just everything else. And I answer to nobody but myself, and the chances that I'm going to fire myself are pretty slim if I screw up a tweet. So can I sit here and tell you that it would never happen, that CNN would come to me and say, Dave, you have absolute carte blanche. I would need everything in writing. We're giving you millions of dollars a year. You can shoot out of your home and do whatever you want. But can I tell you that I wouldn't take that? I can't tell you that, because I'd have to weigh it, right? There's a lot of considerations you have to weigh. But my gut feeling is if the rest of my life continues and we do this show and build this and it never leaves this room and we can own it and control it and keep being important, I will have lived a good life, or at least the best life that I could have lived. And I'll keep trying to get better and all that stuff. So it is not my goal for that. I've really, I think everybody, whether, I started in stand-up, or whether you're a comic or a radio guy or whatever, you want that thing, that mainstream success. I don't need my picture all over the papers, or not that anyone reads the papers or any of that stuff. I'm really completely content with what we have here. I do want to expand a little bit, because my guys work incredibly hard. Amira and David and Talia and Alexis and just everyone that we work with works incredibly hard. And I want to figure out ways that we can expand to ease some of that. And I'm working at a absurd level right now. So we just have to figure out some of that stuff. But I don't want the nonsense that comes with that mainstream stuff. But we shall see. And I promise you that I'll be totally honest with you guys in however the decision-making process happens. Okay, just a reminder, this right now, this live stream that we're doing, this is open to all patrons. It's the last time we're going to do this. We've done it a couple of times before, but I can't do it all the time because it's not fair to the patrons that pay at this level. We've never even had one person at that level complain, because they're usually happy to see more people in here and more engagement and all that. But there's a reason that the rewards are at certain levels. So we're going to try to recalibrate it, as I said earlier, and figure out what's what. Okay, any post-interview thoughts on the Kasich interview? A couple, actually. Well, number one, first off, I think you got to give Kasich a lot of credit, as I did, for the fact that he did the interview with no advance warning of questions, of topics. He didn't know how long we were going to sit down for. His team just said, come in and do this and talk and let's figure it out. So I think that was great. Politicians don't do that. He walked into my house. He's like, where am I? Like, he wasn't even sure exactly what was happening, but he had a couple people on his staff that were younger people that were fans of the show that were incredibly excited to be here. And he took their advice and said, I'm going to be part of this thing. I think we had a great chat. Look, Kasich, I think, is sort of more of an old school politician I think he's basically, he's sort of center right. He has some limited government stuff, but, I think some of his answers are very palatable to Democrats these days, which I think is a problem for the Republican base. But I think let's put it this way. When I finished with him, I felt that he was a decent man. I don't know that that makes you president, but I think he was a decent man. He walked through my house after he said, oh, can I take a tour of your house? And he walks in and he checked out it was pouring rain outside. So he walks to the back and he's kind of trying to look at the chicken coop. but you couldn't really see it from the way the window faces. So he came into my room. So there I have former presidential candidate John Kasich in my bedroom. That day we had such chaos around here. You know, we're usually pretty on the ball about everything, and we keep the house very clean, everything. My bedroom just happened to be a disaster because I had just unpacked from a trip and everything. And there I have like stuff all over the floor. My bed's a mess, and there's books everywhere. And John Kasich standing there looking at my chickens. So it was a great day. I'd love to have him back. By the way, I think this is going to open the door for some of these other politicians because I think they're going to see me as a fair arbiter. We've been talking to Marco Rubio's people. We're still working on Rand Paul. So I think more of this stuff will keep coming, which is great. Let's see. In Australia, market and workplace are highly regulated to make sure protecting less informed customers. It's a dilemma. I don't like government involvement too much. But how about safety issues? So this is sort of what I addressed earlier with the food stuff. You know, look, each country, it's a little bit different in each country too, by the way. You know, Australia, you have a huge land mass with not that many people. You have a decent, I'm not exactly sure how many people, but relative to your land mass, right? It's not a lot of people. America, we're a big land mass with 350, if not 400 million people. We have states that compete for different things. I don't think there's a perfect answer here. I don't. I'm not saying that if every company could do whatever they wanted, that suddenly we wouldn't have any problems, and that the market would make all the problems go away. But I do think that the market would make more of the problems go away. And I think the market would allow for more innovation and creativity than having the government regulate these things. If you're a dairy farmer and you sell milk, it will be in your vested interest not to have cyanide in your milk. By the way, another piece of this that we shouldn't forget is how technology is changing all of this. So, you know, one of the ones where I used to agree with Bill Maher on everything, and now I don't anymore because I think his answers usually are, he complains about the government all day, as the left does, and then he says all the answers are government. Like, this is what they'll say. Well, wait a minute, you're cutting regulation, and now these companies are going to pollute the lakes. I'm pretty sure every single person watching this has one of these in their pocket. It's some sort of phone, and with it has a camera and an ability to post things immediately. And if you saw excessive smokestack pollution or things being polluted in the lake, or you saw containers at of yogurt at your supermarket that weren't properly sealed, or that the unit itself, the cooling unit itself, was the fault of the supermarket for not keeping it cool enough. All of these things we can now take to social media and complain to make these things better. Think about all the people that all day long complain to airlines about my seat is this way and my earbud didn't work and blah, blah, blah. And then they respond. So I think you have much better chance of affecting a company than you do of the government. That doesn't make it perfect, but I think it makes it a little bit better. But both you and the previous question about this, what you're saying is you want to watch out for the people that aren't as informed. And I think what you're also saying at the same time, and I think this is legit, is for the people that won't have access to the better things. So then you potentially could be eating tuna that was caught in a way that perhaps there is then more, more of a chance that there could be a shrapnel in there or something. I'm just making something up. It's legit. It's legit, but I don't think government regulation is the way that you stop all of those things. Okay, where are we? Let's see. Personal question. I'd love to see you and David adopt a baby. You'd be such a great dad. First off, I have no problem with personal questions. I know most of you guys come to me for politics and the social stuff and all that, but I'm happy to answer personal questions or tell you guys things about myself. I think part of the reason that you guys care about what I do here and what some of the other people in this space do is we've shown you that we're humans, and I don't think you get a lot of that. Does anyone know what Wolf Blitzer thinks about anything? What does Jake Tapper do for fun? I mean, I think partly it's like we've gotten to know each other. And I think in a weird way, the more that you guys have gotten to know me, I've gotten to know myself in a better way. It's kind of bizarre. As for the kid thing, I don't know who put you up to that question. David does want kids, or at least a kid. I preferably would wait till robot children exist. But we're talking about it. We're talking about it. For a long time, I wanted things in my career to settle in a certain way and feel that I could do it and not be completely worried. And I know there's never a right time. That's what everyone says. And you never feel fully financially secure or any of that stuff. But a lot of that stuff has shaken out. So we've been discussing it, and ask me again in 6 months. Let's see. Have you considered simultaneously uploading your videos to other services like Dailymotion, Vimeo, et cetera, to lower your dependence on YouTube? Yeah, we're figuring out a couple things. Obviously, as you all know, there's a ton of talk on this front of sort of what the move off YouTube eventually is going to be, because it does seem like they're turning the screws against us. I mean, I know there is something wrong with our subscriber thing, because you guys keep emailing me that I keep getting unsubscribed. We see the way our views are on certain videos where we know it's just not going out to the feed. And people tell us that all the time, even though they've clicked the bell and they want all notifications. Unfortunately, YouTube does not have great customer support. But by the way, I've done everything consistent with my other views, which is I'm not asking the government to get involved. I've used my voice to push back against YouTube when necessary, but I want YouTube to be a better platform. But yes, the only way that this thing gets solved is by competition. I don't know that Dailymotion or Vimeo are the solutions in and of themselves. But I can tell you that there are a lot of conversations happening with big people in Silicon Valley about how to resolve some of this stuff. It's one of the issues of the day, right? I mean, if you add the Facebook privacy stuff, and as I said, the trolls overtaking Twitter, and then the frustrations with YouTube, well, this is what the beauty of the free market is. There is someone out there right now working on a solution to this problem. But what would the government solution be? The government solution would be, okay, we're going to break up Google. It's a monopoly. The amount of problem, what right does the government have to do that? No one's forcing you to be on Google. Now, Google, there's an interesting argument there, because they control so much information that maybe they've become bigger than the government. And is that good? But again, the government control of all of these things is not good. So I would say competition, 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 and we'll keep keeping our eyes open for the right ways to go with it. Let's see. You've talked about how difficult it is to get leftist individuals on your show. It would be interesting to get some high-profile, outspoken SJW on the show, since it's the biggest topic during your interviews. Any names come to mind that you would like in that capacity? For the record, just today I tweeted out something with a list of about 10 progressives that I'd love to have on the show. Lefty, collectivist people, from obviously Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, but to comedians like Sarah Silverman and Chelsea Handler, and then to other people that are outspoken like Rob Reiner. And who else did I have? I accidentally put Anna Navarro on the list because she comes off as a big lefty progressive. I was just at Real Time. I was in the audience 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I could have sworn she was a progressive. Turns out she's a Republican strategist, but that just shows you how everything's up in the air right now. I'm happy to talk to anyone that will have an honest, decent discussion without personally attacking anybody. That really is it. And I don't see that many. If you can name a couple people in here, I'd be happy to at least take a look at the people. I know there's a couple people that I hear every now and again, some people that don't even follow me on Twitter, so they don't even care about me, really want me to have on, people that are often talking shit about me. And it's like, I'm just not interested in that game. Like, I'm truly interested in talking about ideas, being respectful to people, and then I'll hear your ideas. Gavin Newsom, progressive, running for governor of California. Would love to have him in here. I disagree with him on everything. Do you guys think I would not be respectful to him? I'd love to hear that. I think, unfortunately, most of these people, they're either having trouble acting in good faith, or they just don't want to talk to other people. But if you've got some names of some interesting people, please throw them out for me. All right, guys, we've got, how are we doing here? We got about 15 minutes to go. Let's see, where are we? I like how you were evolving and giving others the same permission to evolve. Currently, I see you becoming more of a performer. How are you planning to keep the community building on track via more people involved, or is community going to be a second priority? So, it's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked it. So first off, I'm doing my first hour of stand-up in 10 years. This coming Sunday, a week from yesterday, on April 8th, at the Irvine Improv outside of LA. So if you're in the LA area, I think there's some tickets still left. I'm doing at least an hour. Maybe I'll have a sit down also. We were thinking of calling it a night of stand up and sit down, maybe with somebody from the intellectual dark web, as it was called. But yeah, as I've been getting back into opening for Jordan, and I've done a couple stand up gigs, but all I've done is like a little 15-minute thing here and there. It's like, this is going to be the biggest thing I've done in a long time. It's going to be the first time my name's on the marquee, just solo me doing my stand-up thing. And we're going to do it. We're going to see what happens, and the truth is, I don't need it. A lot of these guys, they need it very badly. And I have something really great here with you guys that you guys are a huge part of. And because of that, I don't need it. And I think that's in a way why I want to do it again. And I think when we start taping these and releasing some, or maybe I think I'll do a bunch of them, and then we'll eventually release a special and sell it. I'm jazzed about it again. Like I'm excited about it again. Yeah, I'll do some politics and I'll talk about my life and maybe we'll do some Q&A stuff and I'll play with the crowd and I'll do it in the way that I always wanted to do it because I can draw now. So by using my name, I can get the people there that want to see me there as opposed to being, oh, who was that guy? He was the 8th out of 12 comics, white guy, kind of, youngish, kind of brown hair. Who was that guy again? He was good, but nobody remembers his name. But anyway, to answer your question, we're going to keep blending all these things. Believe me, I know what I truly care about. I know what has kind of put me on the map, especially lately. And that thing that you're looking for, which is why you support me on Patreon, is the same thing that I was looking for. If somebody would have been talking about these issues honestly, if somebody would have been addressing these things that we all saw was wrong and was doing honest, decent sit downs with people and all that, I probably wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? Like if I had been watching, if there had been a Larry King of 1982 out there doing this stuff. And that's not even a fully right way to say it because I've been also showing you who I am in my own political evolution, where Larry was very quiet about his own personal beliefs. But if someone had been doing, a basic interview show while also being honest and open, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have done this, and who knows where I'd be at right now. I have literally no idea what I'd be doing. But anyway, I fear not. I'm completely keenly aware of what we've built here and figuring out how do we expand on it. And I'm thrilled that I'm included in this amazing group of people that I admire, that I've become friends with, and that I'm a part of that. It's pretty awesome. And you guys have helped me do it. So I thank you for that. I see a radical left growing in my country of Malaysia, and it's worrying because it grows the far right. Should I keep my head down or be more vocal about my opposition to the left? It depends on your own situation. So I never try to tell anyone to do it. I would never want to put anyone in harm's way or anything like that. I would say, generally speaking, if you see problems in your country, wherever you are, and you don't speak up, well, no one else is going to speak up, and don't expect someone to speak up before you. And when someone else does speak up and you email them privately and you're like, yeah, you're really doing it, but I have my own problem, so I can't do it. Those are the ones that annoy me the most. I get emails from people that I know, or sometimes that are public people that are privately backing my positions, but won't do it publicly. And those are the worst, actually. I'd rather hear nothing. I don't want to comment on everything. I don't know all the specifics of what's happening in Malaysia, but I think what you're talking about is kind of right. And it's what we've seen here. And it's exactly what I was talking about for the first few months when we did this show. If the left was going to go bananas and abandon liberalism and abandon reason and abandon free speech, what was going to happen? The right would go stronger. And it wouldn't just be the right, it would be some new weird thing that eventually became Trump. Now, you know my feelings basically on Trump at the moment, which are that I think everything's basically fine. There's all sorts of problems. Do I think he has an authoritarian streak that is very dangerous? Yes. But is he murdering people? And all of the horrible things that they tell you are no. But if you wanted to stop the rise of Trump, if you were a decent lefty, what the left needed to do was clean up its own side, because it could have defeated that very easily. But it refused to clean up its own side. It actually dirtied up its own side, and in many ways went to its worst parts. And I sense it's going there much worse. They're doubling down on identity politics. They're not abandoning them. They're doubling down on them. So I would say, I can't tell you specifically what to do in your life or in your country, but I would say that all of us, anyone watching this and anyone on earth, if you believe in something, you better stand up for it. Like, what else is the purpose of being alive? I don't know why I feel that so intimately, like for all the other mistakes and inconsistencies and all sorts of foibles and things that I've had in my life, I feel that very strongly and very clearly. So I think that's really the best thing that I can tell you. Did you hear about the city Arcata taking down the statue of President McKinley? Yikes, so troubling. I saw something on Twitter, I think yesterday or today. I'm also hearing something that Hofstra University wants to take down something of Thomas Jefferson. I mean, this is what I've been saying, people. If you give these guys an inch, it sucks. It sucks because they can make a legitimate point every now and again, but they'll never stop. They will come for the Washington Monument one day. George Washington owned slaves till the day he died. His half of the slaves actually got freed. I just went to his house at Mount Vernon a couple months ago in DC. His half of the slaves got, I don't know if it's exactly half, but his portion of the slaves got freed when he died, but Martha's slaves remained because technically there was some like odd loophole there. He could have freed his slaves when he was alive. Do you think the Washington Monument should be taken down? Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. Go to Monticello, where they're very respectful about it and very upfront and frank about it. These were all people of their time that were imperfect, but who set the ground rules for better freedom and life for more people than is humanly imaginable. And in the name of applying our 2018 values or progressive values on them, we will literally destroy this country, and we will destroy everything that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the beauty of America has given us. So I don't think we should take any of these things down, and I include even the things for Robert E. Lee. You know, they took down in Old Town Alexandria. Robert E. Lee and George Washington went to the same church. There was a plaque for each of them. So because they took the Robert E. Lee one down, they decided they had to take the George Washington one down too. You leave them both. You put up a plaque that tells you about their stories. You don't erase history. You try to explain it. I mean, I don't know how much clearer I can be on that nonsense. Lordy, lordy. Let's see. Have you heard of Darren Brown? Not sure if his fame has reached over the pond, but he's pretty well known here in the UK. He's a magician, psychological illusionist, and recently did a Netflix show about whether someone could be manipulated by social pressure to commit murder. That sounds like a episode of Black Mirror. Reminded me a lot of what Jordan B. Peterson has had to say about ordinary people can have the capacity to do terrible things. So I don't know Darren Brown, but I'll look into that for sure. That sounds really fascinating to me. There's a great place in LA here. If for those of you that can ever make it out to LA, there's a private club, but you know what? And I can only get in because I know a magician. But if any of you get out there, let me know if you're coming to LA, and I'll try to get you in. Called the Magic Castle. It is one of the most spectacular places that you can possibly go, like something that you will remember your whole life. I just went there with friends 2 weeks ago. It is an old school castle. It looks like a Harry Potter castle. It's in the Hollywood Hills. And they have various rooms of magicians all the time. They're chopping women in half in some room. They're doing card tricks in other rooms. They're doing rings and and illusionists and mentalists and blah, blah, blah. In all these rooms, it's black tie. So the male has to wear a suit and tie. Women have to wear an evening gown, and you can have dinner there. And it's just this wonderful, just like you never experience anything like old and great and traditional like that anymore. It's so cool. That was a slight sidebar from what you were saying. And actually, I'll tell you this, I once went there very early on before he had become the person that he was going to become. I once went there with Milo, actually, and it was really weird to see him there because for all the bravado with Milo and the theater and the theatrics and all that stuff, seeing him at a magic show, it like made him a kid. He really was a kid. It was really, there was something human there. Who would have thought? Let's see. I really love these Hangouts. Thanks for doing these. I really love these too. I've really enjoyed this one, particularly for some reason. I think the questions have been good, and I think you guys can feel it too. Like there's really some good momentum behind what we're doing. You know, I've gotten some wind that there might be some hit pieces written about me soon, and you know, it's just like the idea that I know that I have you guys in my corner, that I don't always have to defend myself, but you guys will get out there and defend me. And it's like, that's what I've done for other people. And that together by being individuals, not because we guilted each other into all being here, but because we care about the same ideas and we want other people to have the opportunity to figure out which ideas they care about. We've all sort of circled around this thing. That's pretty damn cool in my book. So yeah, very cool. Very cool. I'd love to see you have Riaz Patel on. Also, Joel Salatin would be a great guest. Little off the usual path. So I don't know who Riaz Patel is, unless I'm blanking. It doesn't ring a bell. Joel Salatin definitely rings a bell, but I'm not sure honestly who that is either. So I will keep both of those in mind. I've never heard you address the Freedom Tombs parody of you. I agree, all that business. What do you think of it? Yeah, I thought it was funny. I commented on it. I wrote, I agree. It's like, wow. You know, it's funny when people do parodies of me, or first off, when people do like, forget this thing for a second, but when people do like mean things about me, I'm always like, wow, I must have really made it. That somebody like wrote this insane essay, and it's usually just lies and misquotes, or they don't even quote me. but you know, it's just nonsense and conjecture and drivel. And I'm always like, wow, someone thinks I'm so influential that they spent their time writing that nonsense. Like I guess I made it. That's pretty cool. I also thought I made it when I was at University of Central Florida with your own a couple of days ago. And I had to go to the bathroom, and they had us in a little green room. There were a ton of security officers there and all that stuff. And I had to go to the bathroom, and they had a police escort me into the bathroom. He literally walked me. I had to walk past the line. People were saying hi. He walks me. Then he didn't even stand outside the bathroom. I was peeing in the urinal, and he was standing by the faucet. I mean, it was actually a little weird, but I thought, I guess I made it. This seems pretty good. He didn't hold it or anything, but you know. Anyway, so when people do like these hate articles, like I'm always like I don't like them, but I'm like, man, I guess I'm somebody. As for the parody ones, I love them usually. Like as long as if you're doing something in good-natured fun, I love them. I mean, look at hashtag Save Dave during the Candace and Blair thing. Like most of them, at the end of the day, most of them were mocking me, right? Me sitting there, looking this way, hand on my head, depressed, guys. So they're mocking me, but like, I'm not above being mocked. And I think having a little self-deprecation is actually pretty good. And it shows that people care about what you're doing. If people are just mean, if they're just online telling me to go fuck myself or some other nonsense, well, I just don't want anything to do with that. And then yes, Twitter does have a block button. I have no problem using it. But if it's good-natured fun and you're pleasant, yeah, it's all good. Most life-changing or mind-altering interview go. Good one. I mean, I think many of you know this. The first sit down with Larry Elder, which I've talked about a bunch, which if you haven't seen, I've done 2 with him. Make sure you can watch them both. They're great. But watch the first one because it was when I really was still part of that left. And we started talking about systemic racism, and Larry just beat me senseless. And I know I've told this story before, but it's quickly worth repeating. He beat me senseless with facts. And it was very obvious that I said something, but I didn't have I didn't do the work. I didn't have the intellectual backing to back up what I was saying. And we were at Aura TV at the time, and when we walked into the green room, we had a much bigger staff that used to do the show. And it's one of the reasons why going independent's been so great. We've been able to slim down and trim everything and make a leaner, meaner machine. But anyway, I walk into the control room, and several of the people there said to me, oh man, you guys, we got to cut that. You guys got to get rid of that. That can't be in there. And I swear to you, without hesitation, I said to them, no, we have to leave it. We have to leave it because it's a learning experience. Because I knew I was beat, but I wasn't beat out of disrespect. I wasn't beat out of because he was trying to drag me. I wasn't beat out of bad intentions. I was beat because someone knew more than me. And I thought, this is, when we posted it, I knew it was the worst moment that I had ever had on camera. And in retrospect, I think it was probably the best moment I've ever had on camera. I showed what was human. People have clipped that. There are things on YouTube on that have over 1 million views. And it's like, Larry Elder owns Dave Rubin. And it's like, all right, if that's the way you want to view it, fine. But it helped change me. And it helped, I think, make me the person I am now. And it made me be sure that if you're going to go into an intellectual gunfight, well, you better be armed. You can't just say you got a weapon. You got to be ready to do it. So I think in actuality, it was my best. Watch my follow-up with Larry because we absolutely address it. Larry and I have become friends since then. He's a great guy. He's hated by a lot of the same people that hate me because there's nothing worse than a lot of what these identity politics people hate more than a black person who veers off what they think is okay for a black person to believe, or a gay person who veers off what they think a gay person believe, or a Jew who does that, or not the new one, which is Asians, and that one's just coming and coming. It's pretty obvious that that's coming. So I care about individuals. On that note, guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I have 15 minutes now for dinner, which I'm going to scarf down. I can hear it being cooked in the other room. And then the one thing that I do at the end of these, because I've been sitting in this chair all day long right here talking to all of the people in the one-on-one hangouts and the group hangouts, I do get a massage. So I'm going to get a massage. I'm going to eat some dinner and get a massage, and then we're back at it tomorrow. We're doing a live stream on Wednesday where I'm going to take more questions, and I'm going to announce some of the stuff that I mentioned to you guys publicly and some other stuff. We've got a great show this week with Benji Backer, who's a really interesting young kid who's working on some sort of conservative and free market principles to how to deal with climate change. You don't think of conservatives and climate change in the same sentence that often, but it was a really, really interesting discussion. So we've got that. We've got Soul coming next week. We've got the Teal Live event. I'm all over the place with Peterson and all that stuff. So anyway, thank you guys. Thank you for your support. Remember, as I said earlier, the Soul one, the fact that we can fly up there, rent the studio, all that, it's all because of you guys. So I hope you're happy with everything that we've continued to build here. We're just at the beginning again. We're always at the beginning, right? I wouldn't even know what to do with myself if I wasn't at the beginning. So I thank you guys, and now I'm going to have a glass of water, scarf down some food, and let a stranger rub me for an hour. Cha. Cha. I started saying ciao, and then I was going to say ta-ta, and I said cha-cha. All right. See you later, guys.